Mike, awesome to be here with you. First time to see your face, which is amazing. We connected, I would say, pretty serendipitously as I've continued to explore some of these concepts for myself, and also begin to share that and invite others to see a perspective like this, or to at least consider it for themselves. It was a really clear connection between you and I on how we're our journeys and how we've been going about our lives. And personally, for me, it's been really about freedom at this point. Freedom to express myself, freedom to use my time however I want, freedom to be and share space with people that light me up and see great things in me and have great beliefs about themselves and the world. Freedom to go wherever I want to go. A lot of people look at freedom as how much money they have, or how much money they make, or what, their next promotion, or how many followers they have, or whether their business grew last month or didn't grow last month. And I've found that historical way of quantifying success conditionally is a never-ending hamster wheel that leaves you feeling empty and stuck and not enough always. And so I'm encouraging people to seek freedom within themselves. Freedom is not a number in your bank account. Trust me, I know. I sold my company in July, and for a couple of weeks after I sold my company, I had never felt not as free. I've never felt less free. And for I work with people, and they're like, "Oh, I'll feel free when I sell my company, or I'll feel free when I have $1 million, or I'll start my business venture that I've wanted to do for 4 years when I have $100,000 in my bank account, so I can feel safe." That level of feeling financially free is actually a mindset, not a number. And so I just wanted to give a little backup.
Yeah.
I would love to get into it with
I'm
you.
glad you started there, Chris, because I think this is a worthy conversation to have. I've had a very similar experience. When I was ready, and when I say ready, meaning burnt out, like I was having anxiety attacks and whatnot through my startup experience. I had worked in big corporate for a while, and then I went to a startup, and that environment just really shook me for a number of reasons. But nonetheless, I was like, okay, this isn't working for me. I have to go figure something out. And I thought, working for myself would be the answer on pretty much all fronts. And I got hooked. They sell it really well, this idea of a franchise, right? Now, the franchise is like business is box ready to go. I was like, yeah, perfect. Be your own boss, right? And then I didn't end up going the franchise route, but this concept of be your own boss, it's like, yeah, I was my own boss, all right, and I was a terrible boss, right? That freedom that you talk about, I needed freedom from my own mental chatter, from my own criticism, from my own feeling of not enough, everything you're describing. I'd like to tease this out right away if we can, Chris, because this is you and I have been through it, and let's be honest, like I made a little bit of money, right? Like I'm pretty good financially. I don't have like rest on the beach money, but I feel secure in myself, and I have some finances to back that up. And there are people that will listen to this and go, "Well, you're only saying that because you have money. It's easy for you to say because you have money." And I think part of this problem is these things are inextricably linked, right? Like we link them in our mind when it's actually both things are true. Yes, if you're going to have low self-worth, feel like you're not enough, you'd ideally like to have those feelings when you're in a safe and secure home, not living on the street with no money, right? Like I think to say like money isn't part of the equation makes this confusing and confounding for people. It's like, obviously, we want to improve our financial health, our financial well being, our financial situation so that we can afford better food, better environment, better healthcare, these things. But what I think you're saying, and what I've experienced as well, is like, if we think that will also solve that I'm not good with myself, that I don't believe in myself, that I don't trust myself, I don't think I'm capable of whatever it is, running my own business, hitting the next career level, whatever the thing is that you're feeling not enough in, or just not enough in general, it tends to get conflated. And we see those two things as linked when they're both important. And the thing you can change more quickly right now is your feelings about yourself. And I'm sure you have techniques for that. I do as well. But I don't know. I just want to run with that and see there's anything more to tease out there or what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I get the comment all the time, which is easy for you to say, bro. You're rich. And I want to describe and remind people that 6 years ago, I had $3,000 in my bank account. I was $60,000 in debt. I had to sell my car because I couldn't afford to pay the insurance and the parking and all that stuff in order to have any money to do anything. And the most important thing is that I was bankrupt in my mind. I didn't think good thoughts about myself. I didn't think about things that were possible for me. Um, and people think, oh, I'll feel better when I'm rich. And it's no, I feel better and then I am able to make money. And it's a totally different mindset. It's like, it's actually totally backwards. And so the things that got me from that state to here, number one, was challenging all of the invisible contracts that we sign about the world and how the world works. That having a stable job is safe and working for yourself is risky. That is conditioning and a lie. That is not a fact. That is a belief that you've been told about how the world works. It is not a fact. How about that I should be married before I'm 30? That if I'm not married by 30, then I'm falling behind. And then what do? You rush to marry someone that you don't even really like. Um, the work week is from Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m., where I hustle and grind and suffer during the week. And then I get to reward myself with the weekend where I can be lazy and do whatever I want and get drunk or whatever. Like it's a made up societal construct and it keeps you trapped. And so I could go and maybe we'll spend time on it because I have 30 of them lined up for this interview. That was the first four, right?
Okay.
Societal
Okay.
programming that is given to you that keeps you trapped in wherever you're stuck. And so the first step is to question all of those things about the world. And when you start to question them, you realize, oh, this isn't the way the world has to be. It's just what I've been told and agreed to about how the world works. And once you do that, then you start to say, oh, it would actually be less risky for me to go and work for myself and then I can control my own income. I have more influence over my own income. I have more autonomy. I have more quote unquote freedom. And I can go and do those things. And then I can start to try things and learn and have control over my income. The next part is changing the beliefs that you have about what's possible. And changing what's possible. Oh, the linear contract. I have to be a manager and then maybe in 2 years I'll get promoted to a senior manager and then maybe in 2 years I'll get promoted to a director and I'll just climb this corporate ladder until I'm 45 and then eventually maybe I'll be happy. And it's like that's not how the world has to work. And what is possible for you could be entirely different. The idea that, oh, I'm not good enough to host a podcast. I'm not smart enough. Like
Yeah.
why would someone listen to me? There's way
Oh,
more qualified people that have PhDs and like no one's going to listen to me. No one's going to care what I have to say, right? These are stories that
I mean,
run
I
in
had
our
these
head.
thoughts just before this podcast, man. I mean, they're still with me to some degree, right? I
Hmm.
mean, they're quiet enough now that it doesn't prevent me, but, those things hang around, and, they're just like you're saying, they're simply not true. But let me ask this, Chris. When you were at that point when you were having those financial challenges and you started to question some of these ideas you had in your head or criticisms or negativity, whatever you wanna call that stuff, what about emotion? So it's one thing to be like, "Oh, this is bullshit. I'm just talking bad about myself. It's not really true," and you can kinda mentally reframe some stuff. But what about how you were feeling about yourself or how you were feeling about your future or how you're feeling about taking a next step or a new venture into something unknown? Did you have to wrestle with any particular emotions around that, or did it feel pretty clear once your head was straight about it?
Yeah. First off, at that time in my life, I didn't view it as a financial challenge. I viewed it as this is normal.
Mm.
It is an
Mhm.
entirely different way of looking at something. I'm like, this is what I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be making $100,000, working 9 to 5, da 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 da. Right. So I didn't see it as a challenge. I saw it as normal, which is even more limiting and potentially damaging. And then the second part is that at the emotional level, you feel like you are your emotion. You feel like, oh, I just get anxiety sometimes. Oh, sometimes I just get frustrated. Sometimes I lose my temper and like say something that I don't mean. That's just who I am, right? And there's no ownership or even conscious recognition that you are creating your emotions through how you see the world. And that it's not like I'm influencing my emotions, I am directly creating them. And so that you have this loop until you reach some level of awareness where it's just like, oh, this is just who I am. These emotions just happen to me. Um, and so that is a disempowering loop of programming that runs until you interrupt it and realize what's actually happening. And so making that leap was something that happened for me in 2021, 2022, is realizing that in between a circumstance and a feeling, there is always a belief or thought that subconsciously
Mhm.
runs that creates that feeling. And that we have the power and the choice and the sovereignty to consciously choose how we think about the circumstances that are happening in our life. Um, I'll give you an example. I'm working with an entrepreneur. He just exited his business and is looking for trying to figure out what's next. And there's many, I don't know why it didn't happen to me, but many entrepreneurs feel a void after they exit their business of
Sure.
like
Yeah.
loss of purpose and productivity loops and what am I doing and stuff like that. And he's got like a health injury going on. And he tells himself a story that his body is failing and that he can't do the same things anymore and that. And I was able to reflect back to him because I am going through a meniscus injury in my right knee and I'm a huge
Mm.
runner. And the way that I view the situation is um, this is a good thing. Now I can focus on my nutrition. I'm not going to have as much cardio. I can dial in my nutrition. I can try new exercises like riding a bike or other things that I haven't tried while I used to just run all the time. And it's the same exact situation for two people, just perceived in an entirely different way. And just recognizing that our own subjectivity. I even got a comment on Instagram. It's like, what do I do, and how do I hold my frequency high when negative things happen? And it's like, who's deciding whether it's negative or not? It's your own subjectivity, right? Like nothing is negative to begin with. It's only when we think about that negativity does it actually become negative. Um, and so I think those are some interesting unlocks for in the early part of the journey.
Yeah. So you talked about awareness, which I agree is the essential piece up front, and I think we should tease that out a little bit more because, we started this conversation, you were saying when you and I just had a 30-minute conversation, the kind of questions I was asking you was based on me personally experiencing a lot of stuff and now working with clients. And so I try to stay grounded to when I didn't want to hear any of this. When I was that person that was like, this guy's full of shit. It's because he's rich, it's because he had success in business, it's because of this. And that was all ways to just make myself feel better, even though I'm feeling better about being small in this little box. But at least it's some reprieve from all the incessant noise of not feeling good enough. It's a weird paradox and conundrum that we can break down. I hope enough people get that message through this. But I want to ask a little bit more about the emotions because I know for me, that was the hardest part. I could do a lot of mental reframe and break down beliefs, but then I would get scared, or I would have anxiety, or I would feel shame, or something of this nature, and that was the difficult part, and I think those emotions, like you're saying, are the things that really get us stuck because we're afraid of our emotions. If there's anything people can learn here is, like, that's what we're actually afraid of. We're afraid we will feel, some overwhelming amount of fear or some overwhelming amount of shame or a big one, some overwhelming amount of failure. If I go take this risk, again, if you're perceiving, whatever it is, a new career, a new relationship, starting your own business, whatever that thing is, it's like if I fail, that means I am a failure and my worst fear is feeling like a failure. And I think those are major prohibitors, and things that we miss and we overlook because the mind will distract you from all that and give you all kinds of excuses. But I'm just curious if you experienced any type of that level of anxiety or fear, and if that was something you had to overcome as well.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to break down the difference between a conscious thought and a subconscious belief. And so, regardless of which one it happens, when you feel anxiety, your thought or belief is creating that anxiety no matter what. There's no debate around that fact and truth. The question is whether you can recognize what thought or belief is causing that, right? So it's easy to be like, I'm about to go speak in front of 1,000 people. I'm anxious because I'm worried about what they're going to think of me, or I'm wondering if I'm going to stumble on my words, or that my speech isn't good, or they don't like it, and so I'm worried about what other people think, right? So maybe someone, like, when they're doing that activity, it's easy. Um, but how about a belief of I'm not good enough? Like, most people, and it's interesting as I continue to work with people, um, they are able to rationalize and
Mhm.
hide their own beliefs from themselves and spin it into something that's good. Oh, I just am a type A person. I just love to have control. The
Yeah.
personality test said I'm a driver, and that, like, what does a personality test do? It doesn't tell you who you are. It reflects all of your limiting beliefs and patterns and habits that are not helpful. And so, um, that to be able to recognize the truth of my thoughts are creating this, and then be able to discern a surface level thought versus a deeply rooted belief, I think is really helpful. And honestly, like, it especially for people in that stage, it can be very helpful to have somebody just reflect it back to you, because
Mhm.
some people that have
Yeah.
been through it, it's super easy to figure it out. Like, I was on a Zoom yesterday, and we have an internet connection issue, and so I couldn't even see the guy's face. And I could feel, like, you can just hear it in their voice. It's like you feel more calm and less pressure around this decision, but I can hear it in your voice that you are still worried about what other people think. And it's just once you have experienced it for yourself, it's very, very easy to be able to point it out to others, not to make them feel bad, to illuminate something that can change their life.
Yes.
Um, and so my hope through doing all this is that, like, my journey to figuring this out for myself, which led to incredible freedom, incredible happiness, incredible authenticity, incredible results in my life, all these incredible things, was long, painful, full of suffering and things like that. And honestly, it doesn't need to be like that for everyone. There is also a societal conditioning. Oh, I need to suffer in order to be successful, or I need to suffer and make mistakes and hurt myself in order to learn stuff. And it's like, no, you don't actually. And so my hope is to just pave a smoother, clearer path for other people to follow, to be able to find this within themselves.
Yeah, this is brilliant. And just to piece together something you said a minute ago with that string, but the awareness piece, and then realizing that to some degree our emotions come in waves seemingly out of nowhere. To some degree, they're kind of manufactured based on like the biofeedback of our mind and body and what we're thinking and believing about ourselves. And what you were saying there, I hope this is something people could take away here. But the same thing you're saying, like if I have a client that says, I'm anxious because I'm public speaking, I'm got to present to my boss, whatever. I try to cut it off before they even finish the because. I'm anxious. Stop right there. Attributing and linking some outside factor to that fuels our anxiety because it's like, I'm anxious because I'm going to be on this podcast. Well, now I'm on this podcast feeling anxious because I've linked in my mind. It's not the truth. It's just I'm feeling anxious. And if we can separate that, that's another way of creating awareness and a pause is just you have a feeling. our mind wants to rationalize it, like you said, attribute it to something, have it be something outside of ourselves, which is a whole other problem, and it creates a domino effect where it's just like, I'm feeling something. Okay, great. So sometimes I just say, cool, feel that. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to rationalize it. It's not linked to anything. Feel it. And I don't know how long it takes. Sometimes it's 90 seconds, sometimes it's 5 minutes, but it's never forever. And the feeling subsides. Whereas if you link it to something, then it's like, oh, this emotion is linked to that event. And every time that event spawns up, guess what I'm feeling? That thing again, where you can break that pattern and you're building tolerance to difficult emotions and sensations in the body.
Yeah, I think there's like a progression where in the first level, your emotions happen to you and you point outside to outside circumstances for why you feel that, which is entire lack of ownership and entirely false. Um, then the second step is allowing your emotions. So then being able to say, I feel anxiety. This anxiety isn't me. This is okay. I can allow this feeling to pass through me and I can raise my awareness around why I feel it. And then the third tier, which is by far the most powerful position to be in as a human, is to take ownership over your emotions and the thoughts that are driving your emotions. So it's a different level than allowing. I think a lot of people that go to therapy, and I'm not definitely not a therapist, but I think a lot of people that go to therapy get trained to allow their emotions and don't realize that they can actually take ownership over them based on how they think about and master their cognition. And so I think that's an interesting sort of maturity level around it because it wasn't that long ago, man. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I was like, I'm just an anxious person. I have a stressful job. Like 2 or 3, I'm not getting anxiety attacks, but 2 or 3 times a week, like I'm spending half a day being fucking anxious about something. And I just told myself a story that this is just who I am and then my job causes it or whatever outside of me causes it. And for the past 12 months, I have not felt a single ounce of anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, not enoughness, worried about what other people think. And that is not to say I'm better than anyone. It is to demonstrate to all of you that you can do the same thing. This is not I'm special and you're not. This is a innate human capability that we can all master, and it leads to an incredible amount of freedom and ownership and happiness within our lives. And so I think that is a really powerful model that people can do to assess where they are right now.
Yeah, that's, maybe it's worth calling this out too, because like even that story, like 2 years ago for myself, I was like really trying to get through my anxiety, right? It was really bothering me. And so I was searching everywhere for solutions and answers. And I started, listening to a lot of podcasts like Mel Robbins and Lewis Howes, and there are a lot around mindset and specifically dealing with stress and anxiety. And the guests they would have on would say something similar, like, "It's possible for everyone," and I'd be like, "Not me." Like,
Yep.
I am
I'm
deep in
different.
this. Yes, yes, but I'll tell you, Chris, for me, I feel fortunate now, even though it felt horrific, and I don't know if these are separate feelings, but like, the anxiety to me was just self-doubt. It was beyond criticism. It was just like, I doubted everything I had done in the past. I doubted anything I could do in the future. It was like borderline crippling. I mean, I was getting through, I was doing my job, but like it wasn't fully debilitating, it was just incredibly uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And I just was like, well, this so isn't working for me. What I'm doing and resisting it and fighting it and trying to deny it was making it worse. So I at least was like, well, let me just it was like my ego cracked enough to where it was like, well, that's just you and you're special and I'm different. I got these problems, all that kind of stuff, to where it was like, "Well, this is so bad that I'll just try it." Because they're like before I was like, "These people are full of it and, like, whatever their situation, and they're just lucky," and all this stuff, and I was so resistant because I think that resistance was trying to protect me from, like, feeling and seeing some stuff I needed to deal with, It's as simple as that. But I just wanna echo your statement and hopefully add that story to, like, I wasn't just a believer of people saying that, "Everyone can do it." I was listening to that and going, "You're full of it." But I was so, like, hurting that I was like, "I have to try something. These people are saying this stuff works, are saying it's possible, like, I can't get any worse. Like, why not try it? I think it's some of the stuff was like weird and like not for me, but I was like, this anxiety, this self doubt is definitely not where I want to be. And so I started doing the stuff you're talking about, getting some separation with my emotions, stop trying to attach to them, stop trying to blame other people for them. And as I did that systematically and went more inside to understand, what the source of this stuff is, resolve it, not just like loop on it, then everything changed and I feel much like you, right? And so I hope it's just another story to echo and coming from a place of I thought that was all bullshit too, you know?
Yep, and for those of you that haven't, you can go back one episode and listen to the frequency tiers episode, which is a must-listen concept, because what Mike just laid out right there are very common tier 2 signs. Having awareness that something is off, right? In tier 1, you have no awareness. You just run the programming. You don't even realize something is off. You think that it's normal. Tier 2, you start to realize something isn't right here. You start to then seek mentors, coaches, content, answers from outside of yourself to try to figure out what's going on. And then eventually you reach tier 3, which is my thoughts, beliefs, actions, emotions, intentions shape the reality that I live in. I still wobble in self-doubt. I take action and then I doubt myself. I take bold action and was that too much? Should I have said that or not? Is it too soon for me to go and do that? So you still have this level of self-doubt. And then when you reach tier 4, you have mastered the skill of your cognition and your emotions where you immediately, whatever circumstance happens to you, you immediately process positive ways of looking at it, which drive positive emotions, which then take different actions and you have strong intentions. And then once you master that skill, you are able to then realize, wow, there's no reason to doubt myself. I have all of this wisdom, all of this amazingness, all of this power, all of this clarity inside me. I don't need other people to tell me what is right for me. I know what is right for me, even if it doesn't make sense to society. I'll give a couple of examples, like me selling my company a couple of months ago. If you spent time looking at it in a spreadsheet, you would say, this doesn't make sense. Why would you do this? Why wouldn't you just hold the company for the next 5 years, grow the value, collect the distributions, then sell it in 5 years? Why not? And it's like, because I know, I can feel it. It is time to move on from this thing, and it's going to open up all of these new opportunities for me. Same with moving to a different city. I talk to people all the time that are like, I know that I need to move to Dubai, or I know that I need to move to San Diego, or wherever they want to go, and they don't. They're like, oh, but the taxes are a little higher there, or it's safer here, or I need to stay in London because that's where the money is, or that's where all the people are, or whatever. And it's like when you get to tier 4, you feel that intuition and you trust it more than anything. You realize how much smarter your intuition is than the conditioning that you've been given. And so I thought that was a really interesting opportunity to sort of highlight those differences in the progression. Because a lot,
So
yeah, go ahead, please.
can I just
I would love to.
so it's so perfect because this is why we connected, Chris, because I saw you showing up differently on LinkedIn because we both come from B2B world. I was in software sales, you were in B2B sales and marketing, right? The whole thing. But I saw you showing up differently. I've been showing up differently for a year now. I was like, all right, he's on to something. And you were talking about frequency, which I found fascinating because as I just explained, and what you just described, I was like, well, how does this dude know this? Like, how is he just described my exact progression as you just did here again, right? And I was like, that's so weird. And I never really got into this like frequency stuff. So I'm very keen to learn more from you here. But like what you were describing, I was like, it was a byproduct. I never set out to like raise my frequency.
Me
I
either.
wanted to be rid of anxiety. It's that simple. I was like, I'm tired of beating myself up. I'm exhausted. This is draining my energy. This self doubt is just grueling. I need it to go away. I wanted it to go away and I was fighting it. I figured out I just needed to kind of almost befriend it and resolve it. But nonetheless, as a byproduct, the things you just said, I was like, this is like magical. And this is the things those people were talking about in the pod. I was like, oh my God, they were right. it happened. I almost kind of, because it was like a good year to 2 gap, it feels, and this is what they describe sometimes, it felt like magic when that voice shifted, like you're saying, to like, I'm in this situation. I might still feel some nerves. I still feel things in my body, but like not attributing it as like that sensation as anxiety. And that anxiety means I'm gonna make a fool of myself and like all that shit. It's just
Hmm.
like, oh, I have a sensation. Okay, cool. Maybe there's a little emotion, maybe there's some thoughts, but fine. And what has happened is, like, I'm making all like, here I am on this it makes no sense. I'm on
Hmm.
this podcast, like, when I originally, like, was aware of you, it was, like, the stuff you were saying around B2B marketing. I was in, chief commercial officer, trying to figure that stuff out, and here we are now talking about just feeling good about ourselves and life and letting, reality unfold and being a part of it, and so all these amazing connections and things started showing up in my life when I cleared all this stuff exactly as you're describing, and that sounded like stage 4, I think. But I'm curious, but I never was intentionally trying to do anything with frequency.
Hmm.
It seemed to be a byproduct. So I'm curious if your approach, and you have a new process, right, encoded,
Hmm.
that you're sharing with people, is it intentional about, like, do you need to know things about frequency? Do you need to have some sort of measure of it? Like, what's the method to get this result that, we both experience and we want everyone to have an experience of?
For sure. So, like you, I stumbled into this by accident. And then I got here and I'm like, holy shit, everybody deserves to live life like this. Like everybody can do this, right? And I'm like, wow, like everything in my life, specifically how I feel, the relationships I engage in, how I show up for others, how I lift others up, how I feel about myself, how I don't doubt myself and I trust what I know, how I'm not seeking approval from anyone. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone. I've been all of the opposite of those things. I know what the difference feels like. And I'm like, everybody deserves to understand that there is a different way to live life. Now, the challenge is that historically, it's been mystical. It's been, oh,
Mm.
just meditate for a couple hours and maybe you'll feel better, or go to a meditation retreat and then come back to the life that you hate for the next quarter and then do it again next quarter. Or like, you're going to be super conscious if you go to an ayahuasca ceremony and come back, and people attribute that to be like raising their consciousness. And it's like, none of that stuff resonates with me. None of it at all. People even got a DM today. They're like, I'm so pumped that you're on this spiritual path. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with spirituality.
Mm.
Zero. And so people have put it in this category over here where it's not structured. It's all self-judged and self-assessed. There's no actionable path of what to take except for try these random things that other people do. And now all of a sudden, like cold plunging and saunaing is part of consciousness. And I'm like, what is this? That's called wellness. Um, and so the gap that we're bridging here is a measurable, scientific, repeatable, actionable process that
Okay.
can measure and show, okay, based on all of these things that we're measuring about you, you are in tier 2. You are on the cusp of tier 3. Here are the main things that you need to focus on in order to get from tier 2 to tier 3. You need to um, reconstruct your identity about what you believe about yourself. You need to clear all of these needs to get external approval from other people before you do something. You need to start to take micro-aligned actions that match the things that you want to do. Right now, you know what you should do, but you're not doing it because you're worried about what other people think. Once you master these three things, then we will test you again. And all of a sudden, now you're at tier 3.1, and you have entirely new objectives, an entirely new framing of how to continue to elevate and grow. And so the structure around it is the secret sauce. And so I think that is the thing that we're bringing to the table. And additionally, I think when I look back, I can clearly see that my frequency, what is frequency? Frequency is the composite signal you emit from your body, combined of your thoughts and beliefs, your emotions, your actions, and your intentions. That's what frequency is. And that
Nice.
signal that comes out of my body influenced everything that I experienced. And if I was feeling fear and not good enough and things like that, the things that I would get back would reflect all of the things that I already thought about myself. And that when I started to challenge those things and I started to think for myself and trust myself, and uh, magically other people are attracted to that. They're like, this guy gets it. It makes me feel better about myself. I get these things. And then to fall out of frequency for a little bit, a while, and get caught up in some of those patterns of not feeling, once your business stops growing 20% every month, all of a sudden you don't feel as good about yourself anymore.
Yeah. That's revealing,
And
isn't it?
and then to watch things start to crumble around you. And that I had to go through that experience. It's something that it was really challenging for me, and it was one of the most incredible things that's ever happened in my life, because now I can bring all of this to other people without them having to go through that. Um, and so when I look back,
Yeah.
my frequency was the driver of all the results that I was getting in my life, the people I was engaged in, and how I felt about myself. So what are we doing here? We're taking something that has been undefined, mystical, and subjective, and putting it into something that people can actually use.
Yes, perfect. That is, I think, in our short 30-minute convo before this, when we called each other, was this is where we definitely are aligned. I think we've had similar experiences, come from different approaches, which is great because it shows us there's multiple ways to get there. But what I really was like, I was like, I said to you, I think, like, thank God you're talking about this in a practical way that is rooted in some sort of methodology. Like the way you were able to describe this, I'm like, this dude doesn't even know me, but he described the stages that I went through, right? So that gives some indication that some sort of framework is possible around this stuff. And I can, again, speaking for myself, I didn't want to hear any of this stuff that sounded, you know, far out there, unscientific, just using language I didn't use in everyday life. And I don't think it needs, there's nothing wrong with it. I want to be really clear.
Same.
And just to be honest, I consider myself a spiritual person, or at least like curious about the spiritual nature of things. And I think those beliefs and philosophies, if they're resourceful, if they're beneficial for you, great, right? But
Same.
to say that it needs to be this certain way and talked about in this certain way, I think it creates a barrier for the everyday person who doesn't understand that, or has grown up in a way that says like that's either nonsense or even dangerous, or it it just creates further barrier where my basic understanding of spirituality is about being inclusive and like bringing people in and doing what you said, which is like, hey, there's another way to experience and view life. Let's all share how we can do that in different methods. But I find speaking about it practically is a good avenue for a large amount of people that just aren't going to resonate with other kinds of methods and languages and such. And it doesn't need to be. Now, I also meditate, and for a while, I was using meditation as a crutch. Like it was
Hmm.
just a way to try to get rid of my anxiety. I do it now because it's like interesting, and I feel like I get like insights
Hmm.
from it, but I'm not dependent on it to not be anxious, right? So I'm a big fan of meditation. I do think it's like a good thing to practice to create that space between thoughts and emotions, and you get to see all your stuff. But like, I'm also not like, you absolutely have to meditate and there's no other way to clear yourself of these beliefs and emotions and things like that. So I hope, again, this can be a little bit of a connector for people that are like, yeah, I hear people talk about this shit all the time, but it makes no damn sense. And it's not for me. And I'm not that type of person,
Hmm.
which is all the, the thing you need to basically resolve. So it's like you can't get anywhere, right?
And it's more important about the output of the meditation than the practice of it. And so I'll explain in a little bit of detail. I don't sit Indian style and close my eyes for 30 minutes and listen to something on Headspace. That's not me. I don't do that. How I get the output of meditation is I'll go and sit on a beach chair for 2 hours, put on a mix that I love, and start to build in my head and let these massive ideas flow to me, and that is my version of it. And it feels way more me, and the output is amazing. I also love running 10 miles and being at mile 6 and all the stuff that's going on in my head and how powerful that can be. And that is a form of meditation for me. All I can think about is putting one foot in front of the other and breathing correctly. And you can totally reduce all of the chatter and things like that that happens in your mind. And so that was just an example for people to see that the way that you see it right now doesn't have to be the way that it works for you. You can make this entirely your own. Now, I know for sure that stabilizing, elevating, and measuring your frequency is an innate human skill. We all have it. Just like if you want to figure out how to play basketball, if you practice enough, you will get better at it. And you will continue to build skills and do more than you thought was possible when you started. Or going to the gym and training your body. Maybe it's tough when you're 240 pounds and you haven't been to the gym in 10 years and you sign up for a gym membership and you don't know how to use the equipment, you don't know how many reps to do or how much weight or what to eat or how much to sleep, or you don't know anything. But guess what? You get a trainer, or you figure out stuff online, and all of a sudden you're doing things that you didn't think were possible. And now all of a sudden you're running on the treadmill and you're working out and you've lost 40 pounds and you're feeling great. That is a skill development. Playing an instrument, learning kite surfing, figuring out how to dance, learning how to read. These are all skills that all humans can learn. And so when it's framed like that, it takes it away from, oh, this is impossible, to, oh, I learned how to play basketball when I was a kid and I played high school basketball. Like, oh, this is just like learning how to play basketball. I can do that. And I think it just becomes so much more accessible to people when it's framed like that. So that's one thing that I've come to learn as well.
That's what this is all about, right? Is making it more accessible, more practical. That's why I was excited to have this conversation with you. And the other thing I want to tease out more, like the thing you just said, it's just when I finally found, methods to do the things you're saying, get some space between my emotions and really start to understand these subconscious programs and beliefs. What I loved about it, it was genuine self-discovery. It wasn't like anyone telling, well, just start to think this way, right? Or like someone telling me to reframe it. Oh, you should really think this way, or that's not true about, just kind of tell me what's true about myself. No, let me discover, like, give me a method to explore my own mind, see what my subconscious programming is, which is going to be the point is we all have programming. What we're programmed with is going to be different and unique for everyone. And what we want to effectively reprogram with, or the resourceful beliefs we want to have about ourselves and about the world, should be our own. They shouldn't be like, reframe it this way so that you can think like me and do the things I'm doing. Like, I don't want to sit in a beach chair for 2 hours and listen to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, that's your thing, right? Like, do it your way, but understand your point is we all have the ability to tune into more things within ourselves. And there's so many variety of methods there. It's like, tune into yourself, whichever way like that works, and spend some time. Like what I say, it's like our body is a sensory apparatus, right? We know that we have senses. We take in signals of light and sound and smells and sensations, right? And it's like, what do we do with that information? And can we fine tune that to get a more rich experience and not be so afraid of it all, which is anxiety, right? And so but the point I love about it is it's empowering. It's understanding yourself. Oh, when I get this sensation or this emotion or I'm around this type of environment, I react this way.
Mhm.
That's getting to know myself. Do I want to react differently? Okay, how can I break that cycle, reverse that cycle down, and build it up in a way that works for me, that makes me feel, whole and excited about what I'm doing, and I can create my own methods. I don't have to do it the way Chris does it or the way Mike does it, but there's a way to do it that works for everybody. I hope people can really feel that and soak that in, because I was another thing I was adverse to was like, I don't want to do it your way. Like, I hated
Good.
control, right? And I think there's so much about this that's empowering. It's getting to know yourself and building your own, more fluid identity around who you are in any given moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think the process of discovering yourself, I think is so interesting, because at the beginning, all you're doing is being somebody that you think other people want to be, or what society has told you to be. You're actually not being yourself. Um, and so when I was younger, earlier on, however you want to look at it, I thought that in order to be more of myself, I needed to go and reach out and do stuff. I need to make more money. I need to get a prettier girlfriend. I need to drive a nicer car. I need to, take more courses and learn more stuff and have more information and build more followers and all this different stuff. And the craziest thing is that it's actually all about removing the stuff that's getting in the way, not adding new stuff for you. It's removing the conditioning,
Yes.
the self-doubt,
Yes.
the limiting beliefs about yourself, the identity that's been given to you based on your role or conditioning or other things. And when you remove all that stuff, you say, whoa, this is who I really am. This is fucking cool. Like, I'm actually a total individual. I am authentic. I can be myself. I am proud to be myself. I am proud to celebrate all of the special things about me. All of this amazingness, power, clarity, peace, internal peace, all this stuff was already here the whole time. And there was just things getting in the way. And it's like, whoa, like that switch of, instead of reaching out to go and find this stuff, it's removing all the stuff that's getting in my way of who I am to begin with. I think is like one of the most powerful. It's true, it's truth, but a powerful mindset switch and perception switch around how do you actually do that. You're not
Yes.
building a building of yourself. You're chipping away at the things that are in your way.
I love it. And I want to talk about this concept of authenticity. It's another thing I struggle with. Authenticity, or what you also said, is like when you strip all this away, it's like, oh, I can actually be myself, not performing this version of myself that I think other people want. But again, I didn't know I was doing that. So it's really hard. And when people say, you got to bring your authentic self to work, I'm like, so like, what else can I be? This is me, right? And you can even hear like I was like angry and
Yeah.
aggressive, right? I was like this type A sales guy, right? Where there's all the shit, right? So I was like, but this is me, and I'll share my concept. Let's see if it resonates, or you got a different one.
Hmm.
Like now that I have seen all this, what I can say is like, but I didn't feel good like most of the time. It's not that I never felt good, but, like, I was angry a lot, I was frustrated a lot. That was before I was even experiencing anxiety, and I think even the anger and frustration was a layer above to help me not feel anxiety. It was like a protector or whatever, but I was like, "This isn't really working." I was angry in situations I didn't need to be angry in, and I was just like, "This isn't" so I could say this is my authentic self. I'm just this way. I just get mad. I'm just get angry, like, this is how it is, right? But I was both not feeling great about myself, getting angry at trivial stuff, and I had some chronic pain too, right? And when I started, and I just thought that was normal. And this, if we can get a new definition of normal, and help people realize like that is not the baseline of how things need to be. The baseline can be feeling at least neutral, if not good. It's not to say you don't ever like, if there was a loss of something, I'd feel grief, I would feel sad, but I would be okay about feeling sad. I wouldn't be
Hmm.
mad at
Resisting it.
myself.
Hmm.
Right, exactly. It's like this there's another thing, maybe I'm going off the whole thing here, but, like, um, that was huge learning for me, is I thought, like, all this was about was just convincing myself to be positive, but
No.
all it really is accepting things as they are and not feeling bad about myself and judging myself and criticizing myself. It's like, I should feel sad. I should feel the full range of emotions. Anxiety is a little bit different. That's
Hmm.
whether that's useful or not, but the point is, like, what I realized that if I don't feel good all the time, I'm not being authentic. That's my new definition of authentic. Like, I shouldn't be in chronic, it's not to say I never get a pain in my leg, but chronic pain should not be, the thread in my life, right?
Hmm.
This not feeling good enough, this anger, resentment, shame, guilt, these things should not be the common thread in my life. And so if I'm doing things and around people that's feeling more common, then I know I'm not being authentic. There's something I need to change about myself or my environment. And then when I'm feeling good, that's when I feel authentic. And then I've had people say, well, doing cocaine feels good, drinking 20 beers feels good. So my answer to that is, do you have a hangover or do you have a halo effect? So yes, I used to drink a ton, right? And I used to love it, I had a blast, right? But then I get a hangover. And when I'm doing things that feel good, check that feeling in 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. If the things I'm doing consistently keep me feeling good in a feeling good state over that duration, then they're not hangovers. That's just me being more authentic. And I don't know if you agree with that experience or definition, but I think it's useful to tease out what authentic means.
Yeah. Yeah. So, first off, I think that the idea, especially in the business world, of authenticity is a crutch or something that people are able to hide behind. Oh, I'm just showing up as my authentic self. Sometimes I'm a dick sometimes. That's just a part of who I
Right.
am.
Right.
Sometimes I got to scream to make a point in a meeting. Sometimes I got to send an email that's like just to prove to other people that I'm smarter than them, right? That's just who I just like to have control. I just need to micromanage people. That's just who I am, right? And they use authenticity as a way to justify their behavior, which is unacceptable. And, and so I think that uh, we need to think about redefining what authenticity means. And I think a part of that, especially for people that are in that, because people in tier 1, 2, and sometimes in tier 3 will flip it and take their things that are unhelpful and try to flip them into positives and convince themselves that it's a positive thing that's happening. We have developed a process called frequency mapping that is able to objectively show you those things, and to be able to expose, are you being authentic or are you telling a lie to yourself to justify where you are right
Yeah.
now? And so that's something that we do with many people. The reason we call it frequency mapping is, what's the first thing that you do when you figure out where you want to go? You have to
Yeah.
define where am I right now and what direction should I be driving my car in, right? So think about it as like an internal as a GPS. Now the mention of does it give you a halo or does it take things from you? I've been looking at this concept between extractive and regenerative. This is, I think, the actual concept that you're getting at here. And so extraction, the core energy is, I want to take more than I can give. I want to extract something from this.
Yeah, gotcha.
The driver is short-term gain, control, and scarcity. Examples of how it can show up in business: it's chasing revenue or short-term financial gains at the cost of employees, customers, environment, or yourself. Relationships, it can be using people for validation or status, or to draft off their energy, or to extract their resources that they have. Content, posting engaging or polarizing content for clicks and likes to create validation. That is an extractive activity, and it is fucking rampant on LinkedIn. It is the worst. It's on every platform. And I'm actually really pissed, specifically today. I don't get angry. This isn't an anger, but it's like a what the fuck type of thing, that LinkedIn has shadow banned me for me calling out the garbage that is happening
Really?
that is happening on that platform, and giving people the truth about why they feel drained after they doom scroll LinkedIn, and why they don't feel good enough when they watch other people
Wow.
do self-promotion and tell lies and produce fake content. And it's like, this is the worst. My post today had the highest engagement rate that I have ever had, and the lowest amount of views that I've ever had. What does that mean? I'm shadow banned. And so people should know that truth, that social media platforms are extractive platforms. They want to extract your attention and energy, and they want to be able to take that attention and monetize it with ads. That is how all social media platforms are built, including LinkedIn. That is why the bullshit workflows, comment for this hack, fake stories, dopamine hits, polarizing things are the things that get the most traction on that platform. Why? Because it gets the most views. And why? When it gets the most views, it can you spend more time on the platform. They serve you more ads. They make more money. They make more money when you spend more time on the platform.
Engagement.
Anyway,
Yeah.
my off my soapbox there, but people should know about that. And there will be new social media platforms built with new principles that are not built on extraction. Right now, they only exist in communities, and many communities are also built on extraction somehow. But there will be new principles about how social media networks work, and I am pumped to either build. Someone wants to build it with me, let's go. I got the idea. Or just excited for that to happen, so people have an alternative from the garbage that exists today. And people are going to listen to that and say, "Oh, Chris, like, you still use LinkedIn." And it's true. Yes, I still use LinkedIn. I know that airplanes pollute the environment, but there's no other way to get somewhere right now. So until there's a better way to get somewhere, I'm going to have to keep flying in a plane. But when they make a carbon neutral thing, if I have the resources and desire and it makes sense, then I will do that instead. Right? So that's how I feel about social media right now. And also, you can change how you use it. I'm purely a creator on that platform. I create, I leave, I answer the comments on my posts. I block people that are in tier 1 and trying to extract my energy or be a dick, and I just move on. And so you can choose how you use the platform as well while you're still using it. Okay, back to it. Another extractive
Real
is
quick, Chris, on that, but
yeah.
before you go sorry, I was just gonna say before you go
Yeah.
on from there, because I do think the behavior on LinkedIn is reflective, like you were just saying, you can see what tier people are in based on their behavior, and I do think, the good things about this is if you have that awareness, you can look at how you're feeling as these things coming up and how you're responding to the thoughts you're having, but it's like the platform is the platform, just like life is life. It's just a series of stuff that's happening. We get to self-select our experience, right?
Mhm.
Like there's so many things going on in the world that we could engage with either through social media or through content or through news or through the people we gossip with or talk with or whatever. But those are all our choices. And when we go, like I saw some people like LinkedIn's not Facebook and you shouldn't talk about politics here. It's just like it's happening. It's a
Mhm.
platform of sharing social ideas. So like it is what it is. Our getting angry about it, our resisting it, our like wishing it was different is just keeping us stuck in
Mhm.
those emotions and things like that. So I mean, I get it. I get annoyed too for sure, but this is what I reflect back. It's like, okay, so I ignore this post or I block that person or I just leave LinkedIn altogether. Not, I mean, like permanently, because I like that platform. I like
Mhm.
engaging with people there. But for the day or for the moment, right? It's just like we got to remember. Again, I think this is what it's all about is this self sovereignty. Like everything is our choice to. Well, maybe not absolutely everything, but a lot of things are more our choice than we like to believe. And LinkedIn is just doing LinkedIn's thing. I do agree it's helpful to be aware of the game or the underlying kind of motive so you don't confuse yourself as to it's something that's there just for your pure benefit only to give you the type of content you want all the time, right? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to be self-selective here, right?
Yeah, and to realize that most of the stuff that is getting the most engagement and looks the most popular is driven from tier 1 and tier 2 frequencies of not being enough and hacking the algorithm and manipulating people and pretending to be generous while you do it and extracting energy from people and trying to prove stuff and trying to look successful even though you don't feel good about yourself and all that energy, you can feel it. So it's not a blanket statement. There's good content that gets engagement on LinkedIn, but just be aware. Like it's more about being aware of the underlying pipes and motivations of the platform based on their business model. That's all I'm trying to communicate here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good.
back
So
to
what's regenerative then?
yep. So we're finishing regenerative here, or actually we're finishing extraction. So important. Another example besides business relationships and content is personal energy. So an example in extraction would be burning yourself out in order to win, um, and extracting your own energy for external validation or quote unquote success metrics. What is the result? The result is depletion, disconnection, like basically self collapse. And so, just like the cocaine example, right? Like there's a lot of other ones that aren't about drugs and alcohol that are also highly extractive and create the same result. Um, and the in the extraction model, just to aware that short-term artificial dopamine hits are generally the driver. And the reason that you chase the dopamine hit is because you feel a specific emotion. Um, and so now let's get into regenerative, which I think is the new paradigm that people are aiming for. The core energy here is to create systems, relationships, and practices that replenish and expand everyone involved. And the driver is abundance, contribution, and long-term sustainability. And examples of how it could show up in business, companies are designed to give back more than they take to people, to the planet, to customers. I know that can feel a little wishy-washy, but if you build a company that makes everyone feel great and sees great things about themselves, and when they look back, they say, wow, that experience changed my life, that is building a regenerative company where you're giving back stuff. You can still make a profit. You can still grow fast.
Mhm.
It is the underlying energy and intention around what you're trying to do and why. Um, relationships, fueling each other's growth and expansion, not trying to take someone so that because they have status or because they have money or trying to get them to invite you to a dinner because you think that they're cool and they would invite you to that dinner or whatever your underlying motivation is. Content, what I'm trying to really embody and inspire despite not having the likes and comments that I've historically gotten on LinkedIn. Um, Content that elevates frequency and leaves people more resourced and empowered than before.
There you go. That's great.
And then lastly, personal energy, structuring your life around practices that restore, expand, and multiply your energy. And the result is expansion, vitality, freedom, compounding returns. Driven not through artificial dopamine, but intrinsic motivation. And just being able to split those two things for yourself and look at like the old world in business and content and social media and even relationships and status and being the cool kid, and a lot of stuff is built on these principles of extraction. If I want to get something from you, and how much greater your life and relationships and business and things could be, and it just how you show up and how you feel when you start to adopt a regenerative methodology. And what is the big driver of doing that? Feeling good about yourself, feeling good and feeling
Exactly.
good enough, and then you can approach the world in a regenerative way instead of trying to extract things to make you feel better about yourself. To try to make you feel better about yourself, it doesn't actually do that.
Oh, that's perfect. That last statement is perfectly said, 'cause that's where I was. It's like, I don't feel right with the world, right with myself, so I'm gonna go do all these things. I'm gonna try to manipulate and prove and do all that, which is just it was my stress and anxiety. Is like I had this image of, like, who I should be.
Hmm.
Again, that's like a subconscious image created, internalized, right? But I was trying to, like, live up to this thing and prove I was good enough or worthy or whatever these things were that I felt I was lacking, and it's why I got so much energy to, like, try to go do that by, like, achieving things or, yeah, establishing, relationships with particular people or whatever the thing is, to your point. But when you just go like, "I'm good. I don't need anything from you." That's, like, the most powerful thing. You wanna go into a negotiation, like, I used to learn a lot in sales about negotiation. You wanna be a master negotiator, don't need anything from anyone,
Hmm.
including validation,
Exactly.
including, like, their acceptance, right? It's just like, "I don't need anything from you." It's like, "Damn, how am I supposed to manipulate you?" You can't.
Yeah.
It's like, that is so powerful way to live, but I think the things we were talking about earlier, for me anyway, I had to get resolve some of these emotions, some of these beliefs and things like that. And then you can get to that state where it's like, even if there's still things I want to achieve in the world, to create in the world, to even buy and consume and have and experience. And like, I love travel and like, I want to do all those things. So I'm going to, I have a business. I'm going to do things. It's not like I'm just like, I'm neutralizing myself in this game. No, but I'm like, I'm good. So whatever happens, I'm gonna mess things up and I'm not gonna beat myself up about it. I'm good. And I just learned from that. Now I can like 2x, my business, not my business from like a revenue standpoint. I mean like my effectiveness. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hmm.
Because I used to be so scared of mistakes that I would try to make tiny mistakes, which made me go in tiny increments
Hmm.
of improvement. Whereas it's like, if I'm good, I can make big mistakes, which means I make big improvements. That's what I'm saying. When I say 2x, I don't mean revenue and shit. I
Yeah.
don't work like that anymore. But
Yeah. So people that have made it this far, how about for however much time we have left, I'm loving this, so I'm down to go for however, but how about we get into some practical
great.
stuff. So I want to do one that I've been working with many people on that I find highly effective, but before that, it's more of just trying to explain a concept for people so that they understand. Um, if I went back 5 years, the life that I live now feels entirely impossible. It would be like, that is impossible. You cannot do, you wouldn't have built those companies. You wouldn't have the freedom. You can go anywhere you want in the world. You have as much time as you want. You're involved with these amazing people and these relationships. And I would have said, that's impossible. Right. And so the phenomena or the principle around this is that um, wherever you sit on your own frequency, you will only see possibilities that are nearby that frequency, slightly down and slightly up. In reality, there's an infinite amount of possibility in your life, and you have the power and the capability to have all of these infinite possibilities. However, you don't see those as possible because you only see the next six doors that are above you and the next six doors that are below you. Um, and so one key element is, as you increase your frequency, you begin to see new possibilities and new things, and you believe different things about yourself and the world, and you're able to see that. And so that is one element. People are like, oh, the guy, sometimes the stuff that I talk about in this podcast, people are like, have you gone crazy? Like, this stuff is impossible. And it's like, no, I'm just operating at a frequency where I see that possibility that you don't see right now. You could see it. It is possible. And so more of a concept frame setting there. One thing that I think I just know would help so many people is to redefine what productivity means.
For sure.
And so there is an invisible contract called the productivity contract, which the societal conditioning and many people, especially in tier 1, tier 2, and so low tier 3s, will experience this conditioning, which is your worth is equal to how busy you are and how much you produce. And the reality is that busyness is not value. Frequency, clarity, and impact is what value actually means. And so when we take that, I've been encouraging people, because most people are stuck in this loop where it's like, I just sold, there's one example here, like, it's not me, it's somebody else, but just for clarity, like, they sold their company for $9 million. And it's been 3 months, and they feel like because they're not working 10 or 12 hours a day, that they're not being productive.
Yep. It's common.
And then what happens is that they rush to do something that they don't like and that drains them, so that they can fill this gap and fill this contract around what productivity, the conditioning of what productivity means. And so
Well, can I pause you there,
I'd
Chris?
love
Because
to.
I had
Yeah.
that exact thing happen to me. So I was at the startup. It got acquired. Between the acquisition, which wasn't a ton of money, but it gave me some nice leeway, and I had a severance. I had that exact thing. I was like, told you I was burnt out. I was anxious. I was like, oh, thank God, it's like over. I can decompress. And that lasted like maybe a month until that hit. Until it was like, what the hell are you doing, you lazy piece of shit?
Mhm.
Like,
Guilt,
you need to
shame,
get
anxiety.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so when you said, Chris, it's like fulfilling the contract, that's a good way to phrase it. But for me, it was like I wanted those feelings to go away. And it comes back to what I was saying. It's
Mm.
like, I don't like this feeling. Productivity, I linked in my mind. Maybe that's what you mean by a contract
Worth.
of like, yes, like, if I just go do something productive, this will go away, which gets me into busyness, gets me into doing things I don't even wanna be doing. I'm trying to just resolve this feeling when I could just resolve the feeling, right? It was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm feeling this. There's some source to this. There's something that needs to be acknowledged and resolved, and I don't need to go get myself busy doing a bunch of nonsense that's gonna just stress me out more and take away my time.
Mhm.
Time to do the things that matter and that I enjoy." But for me anyway, and I'm guessing this is common, is like we want some feeling to go away, that feeling of low self-worth, shame, that productivity is linked to my value inherently to like almost my existence. Like it was pretty deep, man.
Yep. We all
So
have. We
I
all go
think,
through it.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's like if we can recognize a lot of that is linked to trying to make a feeling go away. Just try to stay with that feeling, resolve that feeling versus trying to do a bunch of shit that's going to stress you out and make you do stuff you don't want to do.
So I found that the path to resolving this is redefining for yourself what productivity means. Before, earlier on, to me, productivity meant I was either working out or sitting at my laptop. And if I wasn't doing one of those two things, then I wasn't being productive, and that I would feel guilt or shame if I wasn't doing it. And what did that drive me to do? It drove me to work 12 hours a day and to work out all the time, because those are the only two things that I thought were available options based on how I program my brain about what productivity means. So I'll offer a different definition of productivity. Um, so I find that there are categories of productivity. The first category, and I know this is going to be tough for people to wrap their heads around, is called direct leading edge experiences, meaning that going on a vacation to a new place is productive. Learning to play an instrument that you've never played before is productive. Learning to play a new song on an instrument that you have already know how to play is productive. Doing anything that stretches your brain into new experiences is actually highly productive for creation, innovation, regenerative activities, most people would say, "Oh, that's a waste of time." What do you mean? Like going on vacation for 5 days? That's productive? And I'd be like, yeah, I used to think the same thing as you. And then I went on vacation for 5 days and I came back and I had million dollar ROI in my ideas because I got my head out of my fucking laptop for 5 days. And I would spend $5,000 on a vacation and I would make a million dollar ROI when I got back. And it didn't take long for me to say, oh, going on vacation is an investment, not an expense. It is a productive activity for me to do. So that's one example, right? You don't have to go on vacations. There are many things that you can do around your own town you can do it with your family. You can do it with your spouse. You can do them by yourself with your friends. Like you don't have to be alone doing these things. The next one is what I call the 0 point, which means spending time with yourself. And you
Yes.
can create whatever one you want. Mine would be running long distances by myself and sitting on a beach chair listening to music. Those were my two main go-to things. And the point of this activity is to let new connections form in your brain. And so maybe you don't have the breakthrough idea right while you're doing it, but you have all these experiences of what you're doing in work and you're thinking about in your relationships and all the other information that you have in your brain and experiences. Then you mix it with these new experiences that stretch your brain in new ways. And then you give it time to integrate and settle. And then all of a sudden, all these new connections are being formed. And you can say, oh, when I put this and this together, it makes this. And wow, that is really cool. So I've had several experiences with that recently where it's like, wow, I would have never if I was just sitting here writing down ideas or building a deck at my laptop, I would never have come up with this. So it's up to you how you define productivity. The third one is called radical self-care. So anything around taking care of your body, your mind, your nutrition, sleeping is productive. Eating healthy food is productive. Exercising is productive. Journaling, writing your thoughts, engaging in meaningful relationships, going on a date with your wife, or your husband, those are all things that you're able to take care of all these important things about yourself in your life. That is called radical self-care. The last one is called the production zone. And this is where we have now utilized all these quadrants properly. And then, boom, it pours out of us. This creativity, innovation, new thinking,
Can't
not
even stop it.
not like a cog in a machine doing mindless work, right? You can't even stop it coming out. Like at 45 minutes, you do more than you would have done in a month trying to do it because it's the creativity and the thinking that is actually the important stuff. And to recognize, am I in the production zone or not? And if you're not, you can use the other quadrants and realize that all of those are also productive. And so it changes it. And if you're able to, one, change the definition of productivity, and then two, get comfortable adopting this framework, I am positive because I experience it for myself, you will get 10 times more done in 10% of the time. And that is a 100x productivity increase. And I am not over exaggerating here. That is the truth. Because when we think that sitting at our laptop all day is productive, we are actually mostly doing low-value bullshit to fill our time so that we feel more valuable. But it is worthless activity. And so pass it over to you, or maybe you have a question you wanted to interject on one
Oh,
of
I
those
just
things.
wanna
But
I wanna
yeah.
amplify it. That has happened to me, and I also like you. So I I also thought just the thing I thought was impossible, Chris, that I could just feel good about myself, that I could live in a feeling of, like, good about myself, feeling, like, in love. I don't mean, like, in love with my wife. I mean, I just sometimes feel like I'm in a loving state where I can be compassionate with myself and people that I didn't think was possible. And that element of, like, self-care, again, that can get bastardized as well.
Hmm.
I like that you point that out because it's like, I was trying to use some of that stuff, like you said, with, like, saunas and cold plunge. I love that stuff, but I love it because it makes me feel good. I love it because it's like a place to kind of restore my body and challenge myself, right? Like, I like to that cold plunge is like, how much discomfort can I tolerate? Like, I like challenging myself in that way, but I don't see it as like the gateway to, something else. It's just like it's that process of taking care of myself. Meditation, journaling, like I said, I love those things, but they're not crutches anymore for
Mhm.
me to like try to deal with my anxiety. They are more in that taking care of myself wellness. I like how they make me feel. And like that's I think what I'm hearing from you is keep doing things that make you feel good. When you feel good, people are going to notice and you're starting creative. And ultimately that last step you said, I never thought that was possible for me either, man. Like it's wild. Like it's what you're saying when you can't even stop it. I had to say like, oh, this is what people mean about like flow.
Flow state.
Flow. I was never. I didn't. I was like, what? Like whatever, But like flow is meaning getting out of our own way, stopping all this logical, rational, critical thought, assessing everything. Is that a good idea? Is that a bad idea? Is that right? Is that someone going to be mad about that? If you get that out of the way, we have a lot of stream of consciousness thought that's just like, cool, let me grab the one that seems exciting to me right now. And who knows? Who knows? But like our silly little mind criticizing everything, oh, that's a bad idea. That's how we know, right? That's just a judgment. And when you let it flow and you trust yourself, these other levels that you were talking about earlier, you get to that just like, I don't know if that's a great idea or not, but I like it. I'm excited by it. And I'm going to run with it. And that's just like how it is, right? Versus fighting and resisting all the time. It just feels better. So I love
Yeah.
that breakdown, man. I hope that's super helpful.
And then the world, society has been trained or conditioned that in order to go faster, we need to push harder. And just if we just push harder, then we'll go faster. And when you make the switch and realize that you are already built to go fast and you just need to remove the resistance that is getting in your way. And so instead of push harder, the primary objective is reduce drag.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you realize I was going fast all along. I was just carrying this fucking vest on my back that was slowing me down. And so a good example for people to think about this is that a skydiver does not try to go faster. They are already going fast. What their objective is to reduce drag. And when they reduce drag, they increase speed. And so I like shifting that, one, because it's entirely true. And two, because it creates a lot more, one, fulfillment, but then two, power and ownership of saying, like, you can assess your entire life and say, what are the things that are slowing me down right now? That relationship I have is a drag. Uh, the neighborhood that I live in is a drag. I don't like the people that are around there. There's this dog that barks every night and I don't get sleep. These people have annoying children that vandalize my house, whatever, right? Like my neighborhood is causing me drag. My work, maybe my work environment, maybe I need to switch to a different team. Maybe I need to leave this work environment. My own beliefs and thoughts, my own self-doubt is slowing me down. And then when you see it, you could say, oh, like if I just got that one thing out of my way, I'd go faster. If I could just remove that thing, then I could go faster. And so the primary equation for speed that I like people to look at now is speed equals frequency minus drag. Whatever frequency
Hmm.
you're at, you're already going fast, right? At a tier 4, you can be going fucking fast. But if you got but all of a sudden now you add a bunch of things, a low quality relationship, a low quality business partnership, different thoughts get into you and now your head's getting big and you want to get to 1 million followers instead of 100,000 followers, whatever, all this drag comes through and it slows you down. And so when you think about it that way, there's two ways to increase our speed. It's to elevate our frequency, which is amazing. And that is a scientific equation, by the way. Time equals 1 over frequency. It's an inverse calculation. As we increase our frequency, we have more cycles in the same period of time. That is called physics. And then additionally, we can either raise our frequency or reduce our drag, ideally both. And that's how you actually go faster in quote unquote life.
That is an amazing equation and analogy because I can feel like I know what that feels like, and I know we want other people to get there too through these steps. But like, it makes a lot of sense because that's the place where time doesn't feel constrained, and it's just things are happening, and you're not measuring the speed. I think maybe that's part of it. Is just like you're not even measuring anything. You're just
Mhm.
going, and there's just so much capacity that comes through because we're not resisting anything, as you said. It just
Mhm.
it's practical if we can find the ways to allow ourselves to have that happen.
Yeah.
We are definitely getting in our own way, and there might be some things we need to clear up and such, right? But yes,
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense, and I hope it's helpful to hear it laid out in those kind of more practical, elementary terms.
Yep. And then maybe one more. Um, which is you mentioned it before, like in the master negotiator, it's not needing anything. Usually what you need something for, it's either to impress other people or to make yourself feel better. Those are generally why I need something. Oh, I'm going to engage in this relationship that doesn't feel right, but maybe they'll introduce me to an investor, right? And then so you need something, so you entertain something that you wouldn't originally if you didn't have that need, right? So if you can eliminate both of those things, either needing to impress people or needing to make yourself feel better, and you don't actually need anything from anyone, that leads to unattachment to outcomes. It's like, I don't need that outcome to happen to feel better or to impress other people. Sure, I'd like it to happen, but if it doesn't, that's fine. Or if it happens in October instead of September, that's fine. I'm going to continue to be me. I'm going to continue to live my life. I'm going to continue to enjoy things. Now, with that unattachment to outcomes, there's a couple of things that I think are super practical. The first one is in relation to deadlines. Okay. So, deadlines, when used properly, can be inspiring, motivating, and things like that. As soon as a deadline becomes draining, urgency, pressure, it is no longer helpful and it should be removed. And so you can think about that in your own business, but oftentimes in your own life, we set arbitrary deadlines of we need to move out of our apartment by this date. It's like, why? Sure, we can and so any deadline that then starts to creep into draining, pressure, urgency, question, why do I even have this deadline in the first place? Most likely get rid of it. The second part of it is to focus more on what do I want to have happen and why do I want it to happen instead of how or when. And so when we think about how or when, then we have deadlines all of a sudden. Then all of a sudden we change all the things that would happen, or we do the wrong things because we're trying to have it happen faster so that we can feel better about ourselves, right? Or we say, this is the exact path of how I'm going to grow my company over the next 3 years. And then you have blinders on and you don't realize all this magic that's coming to you, different people that could help you, different paths you could take, different things, because you're so caught up in trying to control your own plan. And so especially for people can self-assess on their own with the previous podcast. If you are in tier 3 or above, particularly, focus more on the what and the why, what's going to happen in your life and why do you want it to happen instead of the how or the when. And that creates a whole different level of just loving the journey of your life, I guess, is like the best way to put it. I just reiterate so much, like my girlfriend in January got us the big ass calendars from Jesse Itzler, and
Yeah.
so cool concept. No knock on Jesse for saying this, but like I was trying to fill it out, and I could only fill out the next 15 days. And I was like, I don't want to commit to that thing in next December. I don't want to. What if we want to do something different? And so I didn't commit to any of that stuff. And if I had if I had drawn up and forced myself to fill out that calendar and then to follow that calendar as my plan and control the outcome, I wouldn't have sold my company. I wouldn't have started this company. I wouldn't have traveled to the amazing places. You and I would have never met. I wouldn't have launched my new podcast. I wouldn't feel the way that I feel. I wouldn't be engaged with the people that I'm engaged in. My life is a trillion times better when I didn't follow my own plan. And it goes totally against conventional wisdom, but is wildly effective to feel what's happening in your life and make decisions based on those feelings rather than trying to plan out everything.
I think now what you're describing is that elusive concept of being present, right?
Mhm.
And it's not to say you can't plan and planning's not useful, but everything is about being adaptive and ultimately, you know, as often as you can is be in this moment and like you're saying, feel it out. But again, that a lot comes down to trusting yourself. I trust myself to make the next best decision or, and trust myself that if it doesn't turn out in a way that feels comfortable or makes me feel good, that I'll adjust.
Yeah.
And then you're just constantly adjust. That is life. But we, our mind made us think something otherwise. I'm guessing we have to wrap up here, Chris. But if we could do something, this will satisfy a little bit for me.
Can't
So
wait.
as I've been on this journey, the thing for me personally is like as I better understood myself, I went, "Oh my God, I was angry and being a jerk about this and that and like stressing myself out and acting out of accordance with myself because of these subconscious scripts and because of my experiences and because of the environment I was around and right? But when I understood it was just my mind making a story around this, something that opened up for me was just like a ton of empathy and because I was like, "Oh my God, everyone is doing this." And I can now see like someone who's treating someone poorly or acting like a dick or doing whatever. It's like I immediately go, "Oh, they must have had some experiences that led them to not be able to understand their emotions, that led them to believe this thing about them, that's taking this action." And like I just really it's really important to me now that, like, compassion and empathy, like, gets radiated from this stuff, like, when you feel good about yourself, that you can understand other people. Because I feel like that's how things can change you. I don't feel like I need to go do massive things, but I feel like if I can be more understanding, compassionate, that ripples out. And so what I'm getting to, though, is when you say that there's tiers of freedom, when we start putting people, "You're a tier 1," I've seen people be like, I don't hang out with low vibe people, right? And now they're just like using it as a way to feel superior, like morally better, or to put people into a box. And I'm like, my ultimate thing is like, we got to stop doing that to ourselves and we got to stop doing it to other people. And that's my best attempt or hope or whatever you want to call that at like ultimately getting into a better environment for everyone. So with those tiers, I like it as a map. What I'm just sharing my own personal thing is like, if it starts to be like, "Well, you're tier 1, I don't wanna do anything with tier 1." Like, for me, I want my capacity to be able to be like, I trust myself and my energy or frequency is enough that I hang out with whoever, and I'm aware, "Okay, this is starting to impact me or whatever, but maybe I'll impact them and bring them up." Right? But, like, I don't know, how do you feel about not putting labels and judgments? Because I feel like that's what we're trying to eradicate, but then having these tiers might facilitate that in some way.
Yeah, first off, one person's perspective is that people that appear high vibe are not always high frequency. And that is
Okay, I like
known as
that.
toxic positivity. And until you're able to elevate your own frequency, it's hard to see it. But afterwards, you can realize how fake people are being in hopes of being seen as high vibe, aka seeking external validation. And so, the reason that I've been trying to communicate to people that vibe and frequency are not the same thing is because vibe is subjective and it is short term. It is
Mm.
this person appears to be positive. They appear to come off as successful. They seem like a good person. It is my perception of a single point in time of this other person. Um, and frequency is a scientific measurement of all those persons' beliefs, actions, intentions, and emotions. And it is a very different state. And so vibe could be like the weather today, which might rain in Austin, but frequency or default frequency is the climate. It only rains a couple of days a year in Austin, Texas. And so the difference here is someone can appear to be high vibe and then be incredibly low frequency, or vice versa. And so the vibe check, people are like, "Oh, we already checked for frequency. We do a vibe check, a 10-minute call to make sure this person's a culture fit." And I'm like, that is fucking the most subjective shit I've ever heard. So anyway, on the vibe stuff, um, and then where um where were we going with this? I
Well,
need
I
to
was
get
just
that out
saying,
there.
like, I like it because the framework and mapping,
Oh
like you
yeah,
said, a
to
map,
not
I
make
need to
people
know where I'm
judge
at to where
themselves,
I'm
right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly,
So
yeah.
I think the way I like to frame this is that just because you are operating in tier 5 or in tier 1, the key thing to know is that all versions of you exist right now. The tier 1 version of me exists. I can fall back into that version at any time. And if you're in tier 1, the tier 5 version of you exists right now. We're not a different person. We are operating at a different frequency. And so a good comp to this is like, if your goal is to be more healthy, what is the first thing you do? You get a blood test, you get on a scale, you get a DEXA scan, you get you VO2 max if you're doing it big, and you evaluate, where's my health right now? And then once you have that awareness, you can say, okay, this is what I should do next. My VO2 max is super low. I need to do some zone 2 cardio or whatever, right? And so the goal here is not to say, oh, this person's in tier 1, they're less than me. It is to create awareness and structure that you can know where you are and then follow, just like you do in a fitness routine, from being, overweight or out of shape to becoming a top 1% athlete. It's the exact same thing. Anyone can do it with effort and training and intention. And then the thing that's mattered the most for me is not whether someone is in tier 1 or tier 5. It is their intentions and desires.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it is the most draining thing ever to take someone, it doesn't matter what tier they are, and to take someone that doesn't want to be pulled somewhere and try to pull them along to do something they don't want to do. However, it can be incredibly energizing to have someone, even if they are operating in tier 1, if they want to do that and they're enjoying the process and they have the intention and the desire to get it done, it can be incredibly energizing. And so to me, it's more about the desire and intentions of that person than what tier they're operating at. And then a quick note on empathy and things like that. I think that empathy really starts to open up in tier 2 and tier 3 when you recognize, oh, that person is acting that way because they are feeling that emotion, because they are thinking some thought about me, which I am a neutral circumstance in their subconscious programming that's running. It has nothing to do with me. And they're just running that program. And once you can recognize that, it creates a whole lot of empathy. As you continue to increase, there is a whole different level of understanding someone else that I'll call intuitive sensing. I believe that it is like a sixth sense for humans that we have not valued in the past. It's not about what you're hearing. It's not about what you're seeing. It's not about what you're not feeling with your hands or your senses. You can feel this underlying energy from someone. This person is trying to manipulate me. This person doesn't feel good about themselves. This person has great intentions and is incredible, and I trust them fully without them doing or saying anything. I don't even know who they are or what their name is. And there's this level of sensing where you can quickly understand what people are right for me and what people aren't, and what is this person's underlying intentions, which is totally invisible and not generally shown by body language or other things like that. And that's like it's not empathy on steroids. It's a different skill. But I think that when you are not so focused on yourself and like, oh, what is this person going to think about me, or how can I get something from this person, or whatever, doubting yourself about taking an action or anything. And when you've removed those things, then you can basically feel all these things that you thought never existed. And you have this entirely new capability to sense all this stuff about these people because you're no longer worried about yourself. And so I think, dude, we could do this forever, but they're about to kick me out of the studio. So I'm so pumped that that our paths crossed and we got to do this conversation. And I'm positive it won't be the last. So I appreciate being able to do this with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And can't wait to meet you in person sometime, man.
Yeah, man, we're going to do it. Thank you so much, Chris. I really learned a lot, and I appreciate you having me here, and it's been a blast. And thank you for whoever's listening. And I hope you can make some changes in your life and start to feel good and do what you just said, is like, know that you're good, and then everything can change. So thanks very much, man.
Right on. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time. Hey, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the We Are Encoded podcast. I hope this episode left you inspired, expanded, and a little more activated. At Encoded, we believe frequency is a human skill, one that can be learned, trained, refined, and elevated. Frequency training is the next evolution of human development, and we're building tools, frameworks, and experiences to help you measure frequency, stabilize it, and expand it. through repeatable, structured training systems. Our mission is massive: to shift the frequency of humanity and positively impact millions of lives. If you felt the resonance and want to support the Encoded mission, you can donate at weareencoded.com/donate. Donations support the production of this podcast, new product development, and scholarships to bring the Encoded system to young adults and children across the world. If you feel the resonance, we'd love and appreciate your support. I'm your host, Chris Walker, signing off for now. Until next time, be great and keep your frequency high.